Is the Citi Trifecta really better than the Chase Trifecta? Welcome back to CreditWise, better credits the wise way. In this video, we'll look at one of the best trifectas for people who want to get the most out of their credits but don't like complicated methods. We'll look at its strengths, some of its weaknesses, and some other factors. Before anything, what is the Citi Trifecta? It is simply using three cards: the Citi Premier, Citi Custom Cash card, and the Citi Double Cash card, simultaneously, systematically, to maximize the benefits of the cards, like the rewards. In terms of annual fees, the Citi Trifecta is cheaper than the Chase Trifecta. Chase, on the other hand, may offer better ways to cash out and transfer points, as well as premium benefits. The Citi Trifecta is a set of 3 Citi cards that you can get for a total annual fee of $95. You can earn at least 2% and up to 5% on every purchase you make with a card, no matter what kind of purchase it is. And for travelers, combining these cards unlocks the ability to transfer rewards to travel partners for huge returns. Using different cards for different kinds of purchases is not a set-it-and-forget-it plan. To get the most out of your trifecta, you'll need to keep track of how much you spend each month and make sure you earn 5% on as many purchases as possible. You'll have to remember which card to use for which transaction. Why is the time spent setting up worth it? One important thing is that it doesn't cost much. Normal setups usually cost between $550 and over $1,100, but this one only costs $95. Another good thing is that you can cover a lot of ground. Third, one of the biggest costs, gas, is really taken into account. For most other arrangements, you either need a business card to get gas multipliers or you have to deal with the rotating categories, both of which are fine but less efficient. So let's look at how things are set up. First, there's the Citi Double Cash, which will be your enforcer and make sure you get at least 2% back on every transaction. 1% when you spend and 1% when you pay off the card. The second card is the Citi Custom Cash, which gives you 5% cash back on your biggest spending category, up to $500 on each billing cycle. There are a lot of surreal things in the categories like gas stations, grocery stores, pharmacies, and different ways to get around. If you care more about spending money on things you don't have to, you choose to travel, restaurants, certain streaming devices, and live entertainment. For the category where you spend the most, you get 5% back on up to $500 and 1% back on everything else. The Citi Premier is the key point around which everything else revolves. This is the only card that costs $95 a year, but there are no fees for using it abroad and it does a lot more than you might think. At gas stations, grocery stores, and restaurants, you get 3x points for every dollar you spend. You also get 3x points when you fly or stay in a hotel, and 1 point for everything else. If you or someone you know doesn't care about travel, 3x back is still 3%. Since this is the case, it's a good option for cashback teams and other people who want to use a single card setup. It turns the cashback these cards get into thank you points that can be given to partners. This makes the cards more valuable. In this case, 3x is equivalent to a 6% return on investment. The 2% of the double cash back would really be 2% back twice, which is more than 4% back. 5 times 5% of the cash from the customs office is worth more than 10%. The 2 cents per point is not a fixed amount. It depends on how much you would have to pay if you didn't get the points. In addition to the fact that these fees are pretty high, this is often why it works so well for businesses. If the economy costs 30,000 points, the business usually costs 60,000 points, which is twice as much. For some people, this may not be worth it, but the menu price may be 5 or 10 times as much. That's the heart of your trifecta, but it would be nice to add a glue guy with the rewards. The roundup feature is nice, but for our purposes, it doesn't matter much unless you make a lot of transactions of $5 or less. The Rewards Plus is appealing because it gives you a 10% rebate when you use any of your other Citi Thank You cards to redeem points. The Citi Trifecta and maybe one more will be a great addition to your setup. The fact that you have a lot of choices is one of the best things about the setup. If you want to switch to a different setup, maybe go back one or forward one to a more expensive one, or you can just downgrade the Citi Premier into a second or third Custom Cash. With a lot of other setups, you don't really have that choice. Because of the annual fees, you either have to keep it or cancel it, or you can downgrade it, but you still have to pay an annual fee. Now, let's talk about some of the negative things about it. First of all, there are no extras, which is both a pro and a con. Most of the other major credit cards are adding lounge access and other great perks for people who like to do fun things. The easiest thing to do, especially for lounges, is to add a second card that is only used for that. There are a few options for $95 that will give you about 10 visits. It's basically a math problem to figure out if a card makes sense, and you can add or take it away as needed, like adding insurance to something if you're worried. The second problem is that they don't have insurance. A few years ago, Citi was the clear leader when it came to security. They had plans for the delay, cancellation, loss, and everything else. The Citi Prestige also had the best trip delay protection in its class, which was 3 hours instead of the 6 hours everyone else had. With the way things are now and how benefits are listed, you would only have to buy it separately or maybe not have any protection at all. In a similar way to the first point, you can just add a card for this and use it only for this. Since the Chase Sapphire Preferred has a $50 annual fee, it's not unusual to add something like that. Third, the Citi Trifecta is not good for people who are on a budget. Theoretically, 3x could give you a 6% return on your investment, but if you care more about the economy, it will be closer to 3%. With Chase, 3x equals 4.5 and it's easy to do this. Just book through their gateway. Yes, there are sweet spots, but you might not need them or not want to look into them. As we move on to the last part, let's talk about the metagame and how these fit into the big picture. No matter how you look at it, the setup is hard to dislike. You have so many options for upgrades and downgrades, and it flows pretty well. Once you do Chase, you can move on to maybe Barclays, US Bank, or Capital One, which are harder to get, and Citi and the Bank of America are right there. In the early and middle stages of the game, all of these issuers have bonuses that can be used more than once. There are 3 big questions that need to be asked. The first question concerns the Prestige card. This card once existed and may theoretically still exist if you have it, but it is closed to new applications and product changes are not permitted. In its heyday, it was one of, if not the finest, travel cards in terms of perks, safeguards, and multipliers. We discussed several flaws, but do they intend to relaunch a card that addresses these flaws, or is this a card that will never return? Or if it does return, will it be significantly and substantially different? The second question is about the absence of a business add-on. For almost everyone else, you may add extra business cards that emphasize topics such as office supplies and advertising. This is both a plus and a minus, since while they do not have it, they have the ability to add it. Third and most intriguing question is how Citi can generate revenue. How would they optimize their efforts? Will they remain in this niche, and if so, how will they generate a profit? With many of the other costly arrangements and cards, they are either attempting to transfer you over to other goods such as mortgages or other loans, or they are purchasing credits for pennies on the dollar. Effectively, they are a market organization with a vast market customer. Also, it's intriguing that what we see at the card level is also observed at the corporate firm level. Trifectas may sound great on paper, but they can be hard to do in real life. Trifectas, no matter which card provider, will only work for you if you pay off your balances every month on time and in full. If you don't pay off your balance, the interest you have to pay will be more than the rewards you can get. That's it again today from CreditWise. Better credit the wise way. If you want to learn more about your credit with tips and tricks, subscribe to the channel and we'll see you in the next video.